the nation.
Raging Review.
The Raging Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Raging Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Lord, ready. Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies, gentlemen, children and babies, Cajun Nation, hello once again and welcome to another edition of the Raging Review podcast. I'm Jerry. I'm joined by Nick. Nick, good evening, sir. Happy Tuesday. How are you, my friend?
In the words of Stevie P, call Cat. It's Tuesday.
Well, it's one step away from the beginning of the week and one step closer to the weekend. Tomorrow we hit hump day and Thursday we got some baseball. So very busy week ahead for Raging Cajun Athletics, in particular, the Diamond Sports. So we have a lot to discuss tonight, in particular, baseball and softball currently on a roll. Baseball had a 4-0 week last week, clinched a share of the conference regular season title, got a chance to win it outright this week starting on Thursday against South Alabama. And how about softball? For the first time since 2016, the road to Oklahoma City passes right on through Lafayette, Yvette Gerard Field at Lamson Park. Cajuns will host this weekend as a 13 seed, starting with the Princeton Tigers on Friday. We'll get more into that as well. Nick, I'm not going to lie. This is the time of year where it gets really fun. I know for football season, usually it's like the postseason, bowl season, late November, early December. Where are we going to go? Are we in the conference championship? Kind of get that vibe for the springtime this time of year, especially now that really the athletic year is almost over when you really think about it. And I don't know about you, but I enjoy this time of year because there's a lot of suspense.
Yeah. And another thing too is that it seems like for the last couple of years, we didn't have to break out the Make Diamond Sports Great Again hats because they've been great. Right. And so it's enjoy the moment. I want to say it's not always going to be great, but why the hell not? I mean, look at how dominating softball has been for the last 30 years and baseball is getting back to the swing of things. So this, you want to, in one breath, say, step back and enjoy the moment. And in the next breath, you want to say, hell no, let's just, win this whole damn thing and keep it rolling. So no, definitely after what I think all considered a disappointing fall, I think this is just what the doctor ordered for Cajuns fans. And by the way, want to also give a shout out to the men's and women's track teams. I mean, they've scored, I think, the highest number of points in a. Am I making sense there? In a what was it, the Sunbelt tournament track meet? I don't know the logistics. I'm not a track guy. Dan McDonald is. Dan McDonald is one man who gets fired up about some track, but I know they did really, really well this season and great things ahead for them as well.
Yeah, congratulations to both the men's and women's track teams. It was good to see because this is probably, I want to say it was one of their better finishes in a long time, if I'm not mistaken. They've really had some, really a great year. I want to say, yeah, it's the most combined points since 2002, 214.7 combined points this past weekend. They had a third place finish. It's the first back-to-back top three finishes since 2001 and 2002. So lots of great things happening in track and field. Congratulations to the both men's and women's track team. Lots to be proud of there. And I guess it just adds more fun to the springtime because now you have another sport where they're not only competitive, but they're competitive, but they're also they also finish strong as opposed to what they have finished in the past.
Just keep winning, baby.
Just
that's all I
keep
can
winning.
say.
There you go. But before we get more in depth, first we'd like to thank our sponsors.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining Rage and Review for another weekly episode. We'd just like to encourage you to patronize our great sponsors like Dr. Brett Venable and Recovery Chiro Med. Have you been in a car accident or hurt yourself lifting on the job? Are you having neck pain or back pain, but really don't want to deal with a long, drawn-out process? Then call the chiropractor Raging Cajun athletes use for their neck and back pain, Dr. Brett Venable. The bottom line is, you just need to feel better. You need to get better quickly. That's where Dr. Brett Venable comes in to make all the difference. Dr. Venable and his integrated team of rehab, chiropractic, and medical doctors have 3 locations in Acadiana to serve you: Opelousas, New Iberia, and of course, main office in Lafayette. Dr. Brett Venable is one of very few chiropractors recognized by the state of Louisiana as a chiropractic specialist. He is also the only chiropractor in the Cajuns Healthcare Alliance and the only chiropractor on the board at Tulane School of Professional Advancement. Before you start to stress about the process, remember insurance. These situations are exactly why you carry workman's comp. There's no need for a court date. Your first call should be to Dr. Brett Venable and his great team at Recovery Chiro Med. No hassle, no waiting, and quick relief. Come and find out what our Raging Cajun athletes and over 10,000 Acadiana residents already know. For more information, call the Lafayette office at 337-988-2188 or visit recoverychiromed.com. recoverychiromed.com. We'd like to thank Dr. Brett Venable for being an RCAF member and the exclusive chiropractic sponsor of the Raging Review podcast. Also, a huge thank you to Absolutely Embroidery and More. We know how much Cajun Nation loves their gear. At Raging Review, we get our gear from Miss Phyllis Thibodeau and the team at Absolutely Embroidery and More. Absolutely has a massive inventory of Raging Cajun apparel to choose from. If you can't find something you like, Absolutely can make something you'll like right there in the shop. And if your creation proves to be a popular item with customers, Absolutely will give you a little incentive for helping out with the cause. Bring in your vermilion and white shirts, hats, shorts, socks, dresses, jackets, sweaters, or whatever garment you need to represent the Cajuns. Absolutely also offers customized embroidery services to promote your business on hats, polos, uniforms, etc. Absolutely rounds out the collection with an assortment of exciting accessories for the Lady Cajuns in your life. Earrings, headbands, bracelets, clutches, and bags are just a few options to complete her spicy look. Pass by 3010 Collie Saloon Road in Lafayette and see the wonderful ladies at Absolutely Embroidery and More today. They'll treat you to quality Cajun clothing, complimentary gourmet cookies, and a friendly conversation. And if you're an out-of-town Raging Cajun, visit them on the web at absolutelyembroideryandmore.com or visit their social channels on Instagram or Facebook. There, you'll find pictures of what the ladies are putting on the shelves in real time. Once again, folks, please support local businesses and please support businesses that support the Raging Cajuns and especially the Raging Review podcast.
And once again, thanks to our sponsors, Dr. Brett Venable, Recovery Chiro Med, as well as Absolutely Embroidery and More. Go check these businesses out. They're local. They support the pod. So let's return the favor. Also, please don't forget, if you want to support our student athletes, give to the Crew à Law. The Crew à Law is the official NIL initiative of the University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Whether it's $2, $20, $2,000, $200,000, however much, whatever it takes to help these student athletes in college sports today. So don't forget to give to the Crew à Law. So anyway, let's get down to brass tacks, Nick. So we have something special planned for softball. We're going to briefly talk a little bit about softball tonight. Not as much. I know there's a lot of great news on the horizon with what's going on, hosting a regional and whatnot. But tonight's going to be more dedicated to baseball. We will scratch the surface on softball a little bit, but we're going to get a little more in depth in another episode coming up, kind of preview each team, talk a little bit about what to expect at Yvette Gerard Field at Lamson Park this weekend as far as atmosphere and matchups. And we figured we kind of, I don't know, Nick, create more content for softball because of the circumstances. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we want to really give them a highlight this week, and we thought just giving them like an asterisk at the end of tonight's conversation wouldn't be really fulfilling and the right thing to do. So we're going to give them a whole episode and hopefully some great things ahead for that episode. We got some things in the works. So should be fun in the next couple days. We'll be rolling that out.
No doubt about it. But anyway, so what we'll do is we'll talk baseball mostly tonight. There's a lot to talk about there. And like I said, we'll scratch the surface on softball, and then we'll do a separate softball episode previewing this weekend's regional here in Lafayette. So without further ado, let's get started with baseball. So the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, great week on the diamond, winning their game, last midweek game of the regular season against Jackson State. We kind of talked about that last Wednesday night. They won by the score of 5-0. Really it wasn't anything that stuck out in that game other than the fact that we scored enough runs at the end to put the game away. Jackson State, they kind of gave us that same dose of medicine that they gave us in 2014. Bunch of soft lefties throwing 65 miles an hour, and we didn't know how to respond to it. Wasn't until the last inning where we were able to step it up. But great job by JT Etheridge. He went in, got the job done. LP Langevin came in and closed. Just a good win going into Georgia Southern. And, last Wednesday, Nick, we recorded, and there were a lot of concerns that we expressed after the Troy series, as well as what we saw against Jackson State, where there were just some things that fundamentally we were missing. And I think it's safe to say that, I actually went back and listened to our episode last week, and all of our concerns, all of our questions, all of our just all of our everything that we needed to know was answered in Statesboro, if that makes sense. I thought that's just what the doctor ordered this time of year, to go to Statesboro against a Georgia Southern team that was, I believe they were tied for third, or they were the lone team in third place, and to go over there and sweep them in a way where it was barely competitive. That was exactly what we needed, in my opinion, because we won it in all three phases. We crushed the ball at the plate. Our pitching was solid for the most part, and our fielding was pretty decent as well. I know we made one or two errors. I believe we made a total of 3 errors this week, or I'm sorry, 2 errors, but they're fixable mistakes. And, when you go on the road against a team that's won the last 8 out of 9, they're one of the hotter teams in the Sun Belt, and you're able to dominate like that. I don't know about you, Nick, but that gets me really, really excited now as we go into the final weekend of the regular season and going into the Sun Belt Conference tournament, because you want to get hot. And I think we created that opportunity, not only getting the job done last weekend, but now going into South Alabama, a team that, they're good, but they also kind of struggled against ULM to finish that regular season at home on senior weekend. I think the situation bodes well for us going into Montgomery for the Sun Belt Conference tournament.
Yeah, you definitely want to go into the tournament on a high note, and especially into your last season with a chance to clinch sole possession of the championship. Going back to the Jackson State game, like we said earlier in the week, it was just a continuation of what we've seen this season. Some inopportune errors, some pitching that from guys that some bad pitching from guys that we typically rely on, and just inconsistent hitting, no plate discipline. And we saw that against Jackson State again. Now, we did eke out the win, but it felt like we only really scored 2 runs by our doing, and the other 3 were because of Jackson State mistakes. So, yeah, going into this weekend didn't feel great. And I said earlier in the week, I want to see us as a ranked team flex our muscles. I want to see us put a team away. I want to see us dominate. I want to see us be the team that you, I, Josh, and the rest of Cajun Nation thought this baseball team could be, and has been through a large part of the season, but just so inconsistent that we didn't know really who to believe we are. And I'm not ready to crown them as the best team that we've seen in the last 10 years. But what I am ready to do is say, okay, you guys answered the call. You did what you needed to do to put yourself in that position the last weekend of the season to be conference champions. You've secured that number 1 seed, which is huge in the tournament. So I liked what I saw out of the Cajuns this weekend. Now, there were some things that we need to fix. And look, if we get 2 errors in a 3-game series, I'm not going to complain. Unless it's a key error in a part of the game where we blow a lead or we give the game away, then I'll start talking about inopportune errors. But look, all in all, I'm satisfied with the weekend. Again, there were some things that we need to see, and I know we're going to go deep into that in just a second, but I wanted them to flex their muscles. I wanted them to be the alpha team this weekend, and they showed up and they did just that. I had a good feeling about it once I heard about batting practice on Thursday night. They were loose, but they were having fun, but they were also cranking that ball, and they did that again on Friday night. So all in all, a great weekend. And they had the opportunity for a letdown on Saturday, but yet again, they came back and they stepped on their throats and won the game. So very happy on how this weekend went.
No question. So Louisiana went over to Statesboro to take on a really good Georgia Southern team. Got all 3 wins. Final scores on Friday 19-3, on Saturday 6-4, on Sunday 9-2. We'll dive into that. With those wins, that puts the Cajuns' overall record at 38-15, 21-6 in conference play, which clinches at least a share of the Sun Belt Conference regular season title, because Troy dropped 2 games to Texas State over the weekend, which Josh called it. Could have happened, and it did. They actually could have gotten swept if Texas State's bullpen didn't collapse on Saturday. So that was huge. And then also, even though Southern Miss swept Arkansas State, even if the Cajuns were to get swept this weekend and Southern Miss sweeps this weekend, even with a tied record, because the Cajuns have the tiebreaker over Southern Miss, winning 2 out of 3 against the Golden Eagles a few weeks ago in Lafayette, Cajuns officially clinch the number 1 seed for the Sun Belt Conference tournament. With that said, yes, that's true, but all the Cajuns have to do is win one more game this weekend, one out of the 3, and they will solidify and clinch the Sun Belt Conference regular season title outright, and that's what we want. So again, Cajuns now sit at 38-15. Their RPI right now is at 39, Nick. They actually jumped up, I think, 11 or 12 spots last week since that Troy game on Sunday, which they actually jumped up 2 or 3 spots from that win, and then going 4-0 on the road against a Georgia Southern team. I believe that was somewhere in the 50s or 60s. So they were pretty big. You know, anytime you play a team that's 1 through 75, it actually helps you and it elevates you, regardless of whether or not you're higher than that team. So I thought that was huge. And of course, you know, I mean, you look around the country, how about Tulane sweeping ECU, Texas State taking 2 out of 3 against Troy? We actually got a lot of help this weekend from a lot of other teams, which was big. But look, when you take care of business, that's what happens. And so now we put ourselves in really, really good positions to not only clinch the outright Sun Belt title, but also now in regional talk, you're pretty much solidified as of today as an at-large. So good things are happening. Just got to stay focused, man.
Yeah, you win the series next weekend and you're in. I have no doubts in that regard. I feel a lot more comfortable than I did with softball, and we saw where softball ended up. But look, South Alabama's a top 75 team as well. So there is a good chance that we move up this weekend. And look, don't sleep. You know, it's either we win 1 or Southern Miss loses 1. Southern Miss, it ain't a cakewalk for them in Texas State. Now, here's what's different. Here's what, not different, but here is what is the X factor for both of those series, that Southern Miss and Texas State and we in South Alabama. They're playing to improve their seeding in the tournament. They're fighting for that seeding right now. So you can't sleep on a South Alabama that scored, I think, double digits tonight against Southeastern. Southern Miss, you know, you saw what, I think they tied it last I saw tonight, but Texas State went out and beat Troy 2 out of 3. It seems like whoever beats us in a series goes on to struggle the next week. So that seemed to take effect with both Coastal and Texas State. So it's not a gimme this weekend. Now, look, do I expect South Alabama to come out and sweep us? Absolutely not. But could they take a game or 2 from us? They absolutely could if we sleep. So we've got to, again, they'll be fighting for seeding. We'll be, you know, obviously playing to not clinch the number 1 seed in the tournament, but clinch the regular season championship. But you can't sleep on the team. And it's senior weekend. There are a lot of distractions going on. You know, you've got the number 1 seed in the tournament. You can't sleep on this team. I'm just saying, they are a traditional rival. We may not see them that way anymore, but they are. and they can come in here and win the series. And last thing you want to do after you get on a hot run is go down 2-1 to South Alabama going into the conference tournament. We need to win this series this weekend.
And I totally agree, Nick. I'm glad you brought that up because that was kind of my question mark going into this weekend, right? Yes, you want to win the regular season outright. And so if you clinch that on Thursday, do you not? I mean, how do you keep the momentum going, right? Where do you, as a fan, you get a little nervous that a little complacency starts to creep in because you got the next 2 games. Well, we solidified the number 1 seed. We clinched the regular season. I mean, what else are we playing for? And you know what? You know what this team's playing for? They're playing for 40 wins. I mean, we always said, we're 38-15 right now. We've always said, based on our conference and based on our schedule, based on the way we play in the Sun Belt, 40 wins is always that sweet spot to pretty much, for the most part, if you finish in the top 3 or 4 of the conference, to get you that at-large bid. So now you're playing for a good spot in a regional too, beyond just what you can get in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, which, by the way, the beauty of what we do in real time, as of right now, I just said 5 minutes ago, our RPI is at 39 because of I believe the Georgia State or Georgia Southern win over Jacksonville. I believe there's, I want to say, who just beat Ohio? Somebody just beat Ohio. I have to pull it up real quick. But right now, Louisiana's RPI, as we're talking, has jumped up 2 spots to number 37.
Nice.
So moving on up. And so tonight they have a bunch of conference games in play right now. Ole Miss is actually in Hattiesburg taking on Southern Miss. Go Eagles. Please win that game for our sake, for our RPI, and for the conference pride. So, so Marshall defeated Ohio and Georgia Southern defeated Jacksonville. That's 6 wins that the Cajuns have against those 2 teams combined. So that moves us up 2 spots to 37. I'm interested to see if Southern Miss can hold on. They're up 7-4 currently in the top of the 8th inning against Ole Miss. If they can hold on to that win,
and it wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking good early because they went down 4-0. So they scored 7 unanswered. That's impressive. Now, again, it just goes to show you Ole Miss with a record of 27-24. Might get consideration for an at-large bid. And here we are saying, well, I think we're good as Sun Belt Conference champions, but it just shows you the SEC bias and all the bull crap that we have to deal with. Look, but let me say this, Jerry. The thing that pisses me off is just because you have a high RPI doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great team. If you go, 8 and 16 in conference. And don't give me we have a strong conference. Congratulations to losing to better teams. And that's what drives me nuts when you see a softball team like Alabama get picked to host a regional that I don't even think they had a winning SEC record, but yet Texas State that won the conference tournament and has a better record doesn't get to host in San Marcos. So, while we say we're comfortable, we're constantly fighting this bias that's out there that has no relevancy, but because they have a name behind on their chest or on the patch on their shoulder, they get better things than we do. So,
but Nick, let's be real, man. When you're in the SEC, right? And this is not a knock on the SEC, but let me give you a prime example of what you just mentioned. Okay, so right now, let's look at Auburn, the Auburn Tigers. Their season's pretty much done after this weekend. Their job is to play spoiler to Alabama, their arch rival. They play them this weekend. It's going to end their season. They're done after this weekend. They don't qualify for the SEC tournament because of their losses. They're 6-21 in conference. Do you know what their RPI is right now?
Probably in the 30s.
45.
So
just by default, they always, all these SEC fans will come play in the SEC if you do blah, blah, blah. Well, honestly, I guarantee you the Cajuns would be better than this. I promise you, if UL played right now and Louisiana played right now in this, in the SEC, we would be better than 6-21 and higher than a 45 RPI. So I think, I don't know if it's as much of a bias as it is the system favors the bigger conferences because of their strength of schedule and whatnot. But the problem is that how are you a 45 RPI with a 6-21 conference record?
Well,
so basically you could play. I mean, look, I could count right now. If you look in the top 10 and just in RPI, you've got the top 4 teams are SEC teams. So basically you could play all 4 of those games, go 2-10, okay, out of the 12 games, and your RPI jumps up just because it's top 4 RPI. So you could still lose and your RPI goes up. Remember we played in
inherent
Houston.
bias of the system. but they use it when they should, when they want to, not should. They use it when they want to, when it's convenient to them, such as a team down the street had a coach retiring, so they give an awful team a regional bid, which made no sense. But it's the same thing. Alabama, I just threw it up there, 10-14 in Sun Belt Conference, and they host above Texas State. That is unbelievable to me. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't want to get off the rails here about the bias that they have with certain conferences, but it's out there and we'll see it again and it'll just piss us all off. But there's nothing we can do about it is in the end, except continue to win and give them no reason to not allow you to be in the regionals.
I think for us, though, I think we're taking care of business. We're doing what we're supposed to do. And look, and that's another thing I'll bring up, too. So with the 3 wins this weekend and our win against Jackson State, you had a 4-0 week. Well, guess what? Baseball experts or college baseball experts, they saw that. And out of the 5 college baseball polls, Cajuns are back in 3 of them or 4 of them. There were 3 of them. There were 4 of them that they dropped out of. There are 3 of them that they're back on. I'll go over that real quick. Baseball America, Cajuns hop back into the top 25 at number 22, which, by the way, Southern Miss actually jumped in the Baseball America poll at number 25. D1 Baseball jumped the Cajuns up 1 spot from last week. They're now at 21. USA Today, Cajuns dropped out of the poll last week. They're back in at 22. And the National College Baseball Writers Association, once again, Cajuns dropped out of the poll last week. They're back there at 22. So 22, 21, 22, 22 in those 4 polls. The only poll where the Cajuns have not jumped back in the top 25 is Perfect Game. And I believe they're right outside. So if they take care of business this week, by next week, hopefully by the conference tournament, they'll be back in all 5 polls. So that, to me, that's respect. I mean, when you have these coaches and these bloggers and these college baseball writers putting us in the top 25, RPI or not, that's respect. That's respect for the Cajuns, and that's respect for our baseball program. And as a fan, I really do appreciate that, because to all the fans, or some of the fans 45 miles to the east that like to downplay our successes, I mean, people take notice. They notice it. You wouldn't be in the top 25 if people didn't know who you were. So that's a job well done. That's a kudos to this team. It's the first time we've been in the top 25, I believe, in 7 years or something like that. And we've hung around the top 25 over the last 6 weeks. So that's an accomplishment in itself. I'm not going to hang the banner, as some fans would say, right, Nick? But at the same time, that is a kudos. When you have a budget that's 1/5 of these bigger schools and you're not handed everything financially and you have to grind and earn everything that you have, to be able to be in the conversation with those type of schools it's something to be proud of. I mean, that's why, we're not going to go on a tangent yet about softball. We'll talk about softball, but that's something to be proud of if you're a Cajuns fan, Nick.
Yeah, no doubt. And the Clowns at Perfect Game, I think, put Alabama on top of us. I think Alabama was like number 25 or something, which was stupid because they barely won a series against a bad TSAB team. They shouldn't have, but TSAB was TSAB on Friday night and they lost. But anyway, but that's beside the point. Look, just take care of business this weekend and do what you got to do. But this past weekend was a good start to that. And I think gave me a little bit of confidence going through this next weekend against South Alabama, not needing to win 2 against them, knowing that we can win 1, and really putting some distance between us and Troy, and leaving that distance between us and Southern Miss. That was important, and that was huge, and that's why all 3 wins this weekend was so important for this team and for me as a fan, knowing going into the last weekend of the season.
Yeah, so talking about conferences right now, I know I mentioned the Cajuns currently have won a share as of today of the Sun Belt Conference regular season. But if you look at the standings right now, again, Louisiana sits with a 21-6 record. Southern Miss is number 2 behind us. They're 3 games behind with an 18-9 conference record. Troy, basically, they're out the race. They're 4 games behind with a 17-10 record, followed by App, JMU, and of course Georgia Southern dropping big time this week after our series sweep. Also, too, look, there's probably, let's see, there's a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are vying for those last 2 spots. I mean, it's tight too, man. I mean, you look at all the way from, let's see, Georgia State, Texas State, both at 12 and 15, ODU, South Alabama at 13 and 14, Coastal at 13 and 14. You know, there's a scenario where Coastal actually does not qualify for the conference tournament. Now, granted, they play Marshall this week, and they would have to get swept by Marshall. And there's like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different scenarios that would have to basically cost Coastal a chance or a spot in the conference tournament. But isn't that crazy, Nick? I mean, just 3 weeks ago, we go to Coastal. They're ranked 13th or 14th in the country. All of D1 baseball and all of these different outlets are predicting them to host a regional. And barring any craziness that happens this weekend, there's actually a scenario where they don't qualify for the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Isn't that insane?
I don't know who is putting the gris-gris against teams that beat us, but Vandy beat us. They went on a terrible losing. I mean, they're not good right now. TSAB beat us. We see what they're doing. Coastal beat us in a series. Not going great for them. Now they're making a comeback, but immediately after that series win, terrible. Troy did what they did last week. They lost, I think, 3 out of 4, if I'm not mistaken. So it just, I don't know whoever is doing the voodoo for the Cajuns this week, but keep it up. And keep it up on the positive side for us. But no, there is just so much parity in this league now. And you just see, again, I said it going into the season, I didn't feel like there was any team that you could sleep on, even a ULM. I mean, you saw them beat South Alabama this weekend. And granted, ULM had a disappointing season, but you still can't sleep on them. You can't sleep on South Alabama this coming weekend. Nobody feels comfortable going into every weekend series. That's what makes baseball fun. That's what makes this league so good. And I look, the future for this league, we just keep getting better and better. So it's very exciting for what the future holds. But man, I kind of wish the days where you knew you could pencil in some L's for the other team, some dubs for us when we go into a weekend series. You can't do that now. Everybody's a challenge every week. That's a lot of fun as a fan.
That's the best. What's the fun of it, though? Because, I mean, we already know we're a baseball conference to begin with. I mean, you got Southern Miss, you got the Cajuns, you've got even, you got Coastal, you've got, I mean, even JMU's on the up and up, App State's on the up and up. You've got Troy that was ranked in the top 25 last week. I mean, you've got a bunch of teams. I mean, Texas State, who's having a down year, they've been in the top 25 as of recently. So that you've got a lot of competition. You've got a lot of parity, like you said. I'll be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I'm happy that we're at the top right now. We're kind of back to the standard of Raging Cajun baseball that we know that we were always capable of. But at the same time, I like the grind. I like the fact that you have to go in every single weekend series counts. No, we didn't win the series at Coastal. No, we didn't win the series at Troy. But each of those series, like each of those wins that we got, even though we went 1 for 3. Each of those wins carry a lot of weight into today. I mean, I think that win at Troy on Sunday, yes, we didn't win the series, but avoiding the sweep and getting the win on Sunday really, really helped us in RPI. And since then, we're on a 5-game win streak. So it doesn't matter, man. Like it is a grinding, challenging, fun conference to be in. Now, I've said this 1,000 times. We've agreed on it 1,000 times. 6 or 7 years ago, we're looking at the Sun Belt Conference and we're going, what's the best way to get out of here? Now we're getting in arguments with other fans of other conferences saying our conference is better than yours in baseball, especially the mid-major conferences.
Not an argument. I mean, they can argue it. I mean,
right.
Stats and RPI speaks for itself. And look, when you get into conference play, we're starting to get a little bit of what the SEC and other conferences have, where you have some top teams in that conference. And then when other teams start playing them and then the RPI works out, now the whole conference has risen. So we just got to keep that top part of the Sun Belt going in a really high RPI situation so that all of our teams benefit for it. And that seems to be working well for us now. So all of these other superior conferences that kind of come to us and talk crap, I mean, just show them the stats. You can't argue what it shows on paper. It is what it is. And we're a damn good conference and beating some, quote, Power 5 conferences, which is not a thing in college baseball, by the way. But the Power 5 bias beating some of that and showing you that we are a top conference in baseball. And by the way, softball is not that far behind. They're creeping up too. So it's, again, spring has become a lot of fun being in the Sun Belt Conference. And who knows, maybe a couple of teams might be knocking on our door to join us in the next couple of years. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, conference realignment isn't over yet. If you're looking at the evolution of college sports today, and I mean, there's so much back and forth with the NIL thing, and they're changing rules constantly. And now the Texas and Oklahoma, and you've got the Pac-12 that's disbanding and turning into the ACC and all this other stuff. I mean, that all starts on July 1st, by the way. So the party's just begun on that. I'm really curious to see how that pans out, because there's going to be more movement there. But anyway. So let's get into it with this past weekend in Statesboro. Again, Cajuns went down there and took care of business. We'll start on Friday. Cajuns started the weekend. There were a lot of mysteries on what would happen with the pitching rotation. I know Andrew Herman was out this weekend. I'm hoping he'll be back this week against South Alabama. We're definitely going to need him this week, as well as going into the conference tournament. But Blake Marshall got the start. And the next 2 days, there were no projected starters. I believe Coach Daggs wanted to play a little bit of chicken with Georgia Southern, because Georgia Southern did the same thing. They announced their Friday guy, no Saturday or Sunday guy. So I figured he was like, all right, you want to play that game? We'll play. He'll tell you we could play that too. And that's exactly what he did. Blake Marshall got the start, pitched one 2/3 of an inning, gave up 1 hit, 1 run, had a strikeout, 2 hit by pitches. And after that, I think our coaching staff had seen enough. They said, look, you did enough for right now. Time to put in the big gun, LP Langevin. LP Langevin came in and just dominated as we expected. LP pitched. He had 97 pitches, pitched 5 1/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. And he actually got the win with a 5-1 record on the year. But it wasn't just what LP did on the mound. It's what the bats did. Cajuns scored 19 runs off of 15 hits, 5 home runs from 5 different players. Especially from players that really don't hit home runs, got their first home runs of the year. And, as the saying goes, hitting is contagious. I mean, let's just say hitting became a pandemic for our lineup on Friday night. And it was fun to watch because everybody was joining in on it. If you look across the board, you look at the roster, I mean, Kyle DeBarge, what more can you say about him? I mean, he's a straight up cheat code for us. It's almost not fair having him on our team. I'm glad he's on our team. Enjoy it while you can, because he'll be gone after this season. But Kyle DeBarge, 3 hits, a home run. This weekend, he actually tied the single season record for home runs in school history. I think Jonathan Lucroy had that record. He's tied, so he's got a chance this week to break it at the Teague on the last weekend of the regular season. But if you look at the lineup, I mean, Kyle DeBarge had 3 hits. John Taylor had a hit Kyle DeBarge had 3 hits, 4 RBIs. John Taylor had a hit with 2 RBIs. Duncan Pastore, 2 hits with 2 RBIs. How about Ben Robichaux coming off the bench? Grand slam to deep center field. Last year he played leadoff for a good part of the first half of the season because he was getting on base. I never knew he had that kind of power. I was so happy for him because lately he's been going in as a pinch runner. But for Coach Daggs to put him in towards the end when the game was out of reach and to be able to hit a grand slam, I was so happy for that kid because that was actually, Nick, his first home run as a Cajun. So, I mean, Clay Wargo got a hit, a home run. Brian Broussard, I believe, got his first home run as a Cajun. I think it was his first home run as a Cajun. I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
I think that was his first hit this season, ever as a Cajun.
Yeah,
actually, it was a home run. Yeah,
it was a home run. He hit one to deep right center field. So, no, just a great. I mean, that was, as a Cajuns fan, going into this weekend, I said last week I'll be happy with 2 out of 3. I knew we were capable to get 2 out of 3. But when you start off the weekend like that, especially whenever the last couple Fridays we've had some trouble, getting some hits, our pitching had been kind of inconsistent, all the way dating back to Coastal Carolina. Of course, Southern Miss, Debo came in the clutch in the 8th, but you didn't score a run till the 8th inning. And then against Troy, we got run ruled. It was good to see a Friday night go our way, and I mean go our way in dominant fashion. And I think that was perfect leading up to the weekend, because at that point I'm like, man, I mean, I always said if we can, with our team, if we could take Friday night, we can win the entire weekend series, which we did. So that was good to see.
Yeah, and we could have easily started LP on Friday night. I think they wanted to see what they could get out of Blake. And like you said, if any sign of danger, they were going to pull him. So I had no problem with that strategy. You said Robichaux, you didn't know he had power. Dude, have you not watched Daggs recruiting an offense? It doesn't matter if you don't know they have power when they get here. The fact that we recruited them, if they're not a pitcher, they got power, bro. I mean, this is a Deggs offense. They might not show it every week, but Robichaux had it somewhere, so not that surprising to me. I will say, look, you made a comment about Debo. Let's talk about that. And Josh sent me a text with some stats from Jay. With runners in scoring position and 2 outs, Debo is 14 for 36, which is 389 batting average. He has 5 homers, 25 ribbies, 1 strikeout, and slugging 833. That is insane numbers. And you're talking about Debo. Debo's a junior, right?
Yes.
So you're talking about Debo, just got to mail it in. He's going to be gone next year. The world of NIL, you don't know that. Now, if Debo's being told he's going to go in the first or second round, he's gone. Like there ain't no money we can match that. And that could very well be the case. I mean, he has shown, and some publications have publicly put out there that Debo is the best shortstop in the draft this year. So there is a 99.999% chance Debo's gone. But I will say, if he's not going to get that first round money or second round or third round money, and he's hearing that he's going to fall in the draft, NIL has made things a game changer to get guys like that to come back. So if we put our money, which in baseball, I do not doubt that we don't have the money. I think we do. We could very well be able to keep him. If it's the case where he and his agent say, okay, you're going to fall far enough, it makes sense to stay for NIL. But I'm with you. We've held on to him this long. God bless him. And if he goes, that money needs to go to Chase Morgan, which we'll talk about on the Saturday game. But all in all, again, I wanted to flex our muscle on Friday night. We did just that. Very happy.
Yeah, very happy, and also very happy that they had a lot of guys that were able to get at bats. That was good to see, especially when the game's out of reach. And not only were they able to get at bats, but some of them got hits, and some of them were able to get on base. So that was good to see. I mean, Brian Broussard Jr., like we said, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, a home run. That was huge for him. And what I liked about Friday night is you let the guys. It's like Deggs always says, play fast, loose, and hard. They did exactly that on all 3 phases. And you need that this time of year, because you may need a Brian Broussard to step up in the conference tournament. You may need a Clay, you may need Wargy to come in a regional as a pinch hitter. I mean, there's opportunities that are going to arise, just like we talked about with pitchers, like we talked about with Chase pitching against Troy. Do we keep him in? Do we take him out? We talked about that last week, but just like that situation where you have to get them ready for when we really face a challenge, like in a postseason play, that's where I think it was important to get those guys in there towards the end, even when the game was out of reach, to get those hits and get those home runs. So with that said, Cajuns again dominated that night. They actually won the game in 8 innings. They actually run ruled Georgia Southern on the road 19-3, and that was big. Cajuns were able to basically it was a great way to start the weekend. So moving on to Saturday, Louisiana took on Georgia State in an afternoon game. They were actually off to a good start. They jumped to a 4-0 lead. Simo was Simo. I mean, I know Coach Deggs had mentioned it. I mean, there's a chance he can be a freshman All-American, and deservedly so. Simo went for 5 innings, giving up 4 hits, no runs, 9 strikeouts. That is a really, really good performance on his part. I know Jack Martinez went in, not his best day. I think he was only in for a third of an inning, gave up 3 runs, gave up a few hits. And what happens? We've had some inconsistencies in the bullpen. We know what Jack's capable of. And so I expect Jack to get out of that rut. I expect him to step up, especially maybe this weekend, but he's going to have to get better before postseason play, which I know he can. But I think what was really important was, yes, we let the game kind of get out of hand towards the end, where Georgia Southern tied it at 4. But then who comes in the clutch at the end? Once again, Kyle DeBarge, the go-ahead hit, the go-ahead run. And, of course, we had some base runners where we capitalized off of some of the mistakes that Georgia Southern made, especially a bad pitch or a wild pitch to the wall, brought in another run to basically clinch the win on Saturday. But what did I get out of Saturday? I like the fact that the team didn't let Georgia Southern come back and win. Those in the past, we've lost many a games like that. You jump to a lead, you lose all the momentum on the road against a good team. we took it right back. And so that's what I'm going to miss about Debo is someone like Debo does not let a team take advantage of you and take it away from you. He took it right back for the team. And then, people feed off of what Debo does. So they did just that. And at the end, I thought Blake McGehee coming in to kind of minimize some of the damage was huge. How about JT Etheridge in the ninth coming in, just mowing him down? After JT's, he didn't really have the best performance against Troy last weekend, but he made up for it. He started against Jackson State, pitched lights out, pitched a gem of a performance against Jackson State, and to come in relief to close out the game, giving up no hits, no runs. I believe he pitched an inning and 1 2/3 of an inning to close the game out. No hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts. That's the way you want to end the game. So we flexed our depth, I thought, in the bullpen on Saturday, especially when things were looking kind of gloom. But it was good to get that win. And of course, I have to laugh because Georgia Southern's coach, who I didn't really think was too animated, really showed he was upset in that last strikeout to end the game. I mean, he literally followed the umpires. When the umpires have to exit with the security, he literally followed them out of the stadium. But I thought Saturday was really important because I just thought, we could have blown that game in so many ways, and we didn't. We took it right back and clinched the series.
First of all, Ryan, this is a family show. I cannot repeat what LP stands for, so we'll
let you take a guess on that. Just take a guess.
We'll go ahead and skip over that. But I'm going to go with Josh on this. Look, Martinez was a highly touted recruit, and we are in the last fourth of the season going into tournament play. You got to do better. I got to see more out of that kid. We know he's got the talent, but you saw him struggle against Houston. You saw him struggle again throughout the season. You saw him have some sparkling, wonderful, time or moments during the season on the mound, but then he goes in and puts us in a really precarious position because SEMO should have gotten that damn win. And it was like, here we go again, where SEMO's going to have a great start, should get a win, and then either the bullpen or the lack of hitting lets us down. And that was the same thing this weekend. So I think I'm with Josh. I was more pissed off at Jack because SEMO didn't get the win. He didn't, he gets us off to such a great start. And then we blow it later for him. Now, like you said, loved what I saw out of Etheridge, both against Jackson State, and he kind of reiterated that this weekend on Saturday because he really shut the door. McGehee did a good job, and McGehee's kind of been up and down, but again, he's kind of getting in his groove, so I like what I see out of him as well. But I'll tell you, the most concerning thing that I saw out of game 1 and 2 that continued into Sunday is the top of our lineup. On Friday night, we scored 19 runs. The LaFleur and Higgs at hitting at 1 and 2 went 0 for 7 on Friday night, and then on Saturday night they went 1 for 9. We got to get more production out of those guys, especially Trey. I mean, Trey was hitting over 400 at some point in the season, and Higgs, when Higgs is Higgs, I mean, you can kind of count on Higgs every 3 to 4 games to have a good game. But we got to get some consistency at the top of the lineup. If he wants to move JT down, that's fine. But we got to get production at the top. And going into Sunday, we saw most of the same. I think Jay mentioned 1 for 19 at some point during Sunday's games. I get moving JT down because you want to start an inning with him. But how about we start the game with him? Because JT is best. To me, JT is best when he's leading off for the Cajuns. So, again, I'm not questioning coaching. Well, I guess I am questioning coaching decisions. If the guys at 1 and 2 are 2 for 22 on the weekend, like that ain't going to cut it going into regional play. I got to see more production out of the first 2 guys in our lineup. And I did not see that Friday or Saturday going into Sunday. So to me, that was outside of Martinez and what we saw out of him, his inconsistency, because we know he's got the talent, but his inconsistency there is the top of the lineups. We got to get more production. We got to set set us up, with Debo and Taylor for more success there. And I mean, it's great that Debo gets up and hits a solo home run, but it would be a lot better if he hit a 2 or 3 run bomb when he comes up to bat in the first inning. But we haven't seen that because we're not getting any production there. So again, going into next weekend and the conference tournament, I need to see more out of the top of the lineup outside of Debo.
I agree with that, and I think you will. I do feel a little more optimistic because those guys can hit the ball. Connor Higgs has a strong bat. Trey LaFleur has a strong bat, and you can always kind of expect them to get on base. It's just a matter of whether or not they're getting walked. I will say I do like Trey LaFleur's bat discipline. I noticed, sometimes he chases the breaking ball, but there were a few times he was able to get on base as a base runner, and that's good to see because then you do have guys like Debo that can come in and kind of create some base path movement, right? With that said, Cajuns on Saturday, again, getting the win 6-4. They had 9 hits to Georgia Southern's 8. They had just 1 error. But it was good to see that. And again, I'm just glad that Blake McGehee and JT Etheridge were able to come in because we've always talked about how deep our bullpen is. I thought we really saw the strength and depth of our bullpen when they're effective. Georgia Southern is not a bad hitting team, and we kind of made them look foolish at times. Now, granted, they got their hits, they got their runs. There were times when they created some chaos for us, but I like the fact that we stayed calm and collective and just played our game fast, loose, and hard, as Deggs always says. So, again, to solidify that the series and clinch the series on Saturday was huge. I was kind of wondering going into Sunday, after it being a close game, and of course their coach getting tossed post game, how Georgia Southern would respond at home because it was their senior weekend. And anytime you play a senior weekend and you lose a game like that, I know sometimes it can kind of deflate you, but at the same time, I don't know if that can make you upset and be motivated. And so on Sunday, we go into Sunday and really the first couple innings, we don't do anything. Neither team gets any hits. Carson Fluno comes in, lights it up. Georgia Southern's pitcher, he comes in and does a great job. And basically, in the third or fourth inning, in the third inning, Georgia Southern gets a solo shot. I think Carson hung a breaking ball or something like that. But then right after that, all it took was Duncan Pastore to just crush one to left field. And before you know it, the hitting parade commences again. And first of all, I love the fact that, we talk about how we feed off of one another. It was good to see us feed off of each other rather than just Debo on Sunday. I felt like everybody got a hit. Also, too, how about Carson Fluno? Carson Fluno has been fighting some injuries. He's kind of had some arm problems here and there. There are times where he hasn't really been able to pitch longer than maybe late reliever or just 1 or 2 innings on a Sunday. Carson pitched the other day. He came out and just dominated. It was probably his best performance all year. 6 innings. 3 hits, gave up 1 run, 5 strikeouts, threw 78 pitches. Having Carson back this time of year, Nick, is huge. It is huge, especially with the depth of pitchers that we have with him. As long as, if we can get Herman back this weekend, pitch Herman on Friday, Simo on Saturday, and Fluno on Sunday, that's a really good rotation going into the postseason, especially regional play. So I was very, very happy. If there's anything I got out of Sunday besides winning and scoring 9 runs, Carson Fluno's performance was huge. That was, to me, that from a pitcher standpoint, to me, that could be a turning point moving forward, especially now in crunch time.
It was another Etheridge situation where we needed to see more out of him. Now, look, there was another weekend coming up, so they could very well take a step back, and we're back here talking after I say Sunday, but on Sunday after the Thursday, Friday, Saturday series going, where the hell was Etheridge? What was Fluno doing? Hopefully that's not the case, but it was a step forward that we needed to see. Again, I don't want to, there was a lot of good. First of all, there was a lot of good in this game, and I was never worried about Sunday. It was always a Saturday game because I always know we're gonna hit on Sunday. It's always Friday, Saturday that I worry about, and after we crushed them on Friday, I wasn't at all worried about Sunday's game. So to me, that was a gimme. I wanted to see what we could produce. I'm with Josh. I was not that impressed with their lineup against us. Now, like you said earlier, Georgia Southern has scored runs, and they did again again tonight against Jacksonville State. I don't know how good Jacksonville State is, but they can score runs. So we did hold them. But if we're going to go to a negative, my negative is again the top of the lineup with LaFleur and Higgs going 1 for 7. I mean, now LaFleur had a nice double late in the game. I believe it was a double. He scored a run there. He had 1 RBI, and then I think he scored later in that inning. But again, if you're going to move, and we moved looking at the lineup, we moved JT down to like the number 5 or 6 hitter that night. We put Uhas in as a cleanup guy. If you're going to start moving the lineup in at the bottom, are we just going to keep guys at the top of the lineup that's not getting production? Like, I guess that's my question, Jerry, is typically you move guys to the top of the lineup that have production and that are getting you off to a good start. It seems like we're doing the opposite. It seems like we have guys that we put at the top of the lineup, they start struggling, we keep them there. I don't know what that strategy is. Do you think that changes going into Georgia Southern this weekend? I don't think it does. I think we're going to be stubborn and keep them there to expect that they're going to break out of that slump. But again, we got to start getting more production out of the top of the lineup. If you're going to move guys like JT down, then the top 2 gotta do something.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do too. I think they're going to probably keep it the way that it is. I mean, look, you've got, I mean, Trey has, I mean, I know Trey does have a decent on-base percentage. I'll give him that. And so does Connor. I mean, Connor does too. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's to your point. We just need to see more consistency from the top of the lineup, because if the top, look, most of our production, like you said, has come from the middle to the nine hole hitter. I mean, if the top of the lineup is able to start clicking, especially before Debo, between Higgs and LaFleur, I mean, that could be a recipe for disaster for our opponents. I mean, I think what I'm looking for here is if you have that type of consistency in the first 2 or 3 batters or first 2 batters, I mean, it's almost like in 2014. Now look, it's no comparison to 2014 when I say that in 2014, you could put anybody anywhere in the lineup, everybody could hit. There was never a hole in the lineup, where I think this time, if your hole is in the top of the lineup, but then your bottom half is just as even more threatening, that actually can work in our favor. So look, we're going to find out this weekend. We're going to see this weekend if the top of our lineup could do a little bit better, but I'm not as worried about that, Nick. Honestly, I don't know what it is. I know you were saying, that there's one negative that came out of it. I just think the hitters, whoever we put in the top of the lineup, I think they have the potential, if that makes sense. Like, I do think they're due for a breakout performance. So I'm not as worried about it right now, to be honest with you. I'm not
nitpicking. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying that they're terrible hitters. I mean, obviously I love both guys, and I think they have a ton of upside. So I don't want that to be misconstrued into me saying that I don't like LaFleur and I don't like Higgs. I'm just saying I would like to see more production out of the top 2 guys. And going back, I'm looking at the stats. Friday night, combined for 3 walks. So as you said, good on base percentage. They left to combined one runner on base. On Saturday night, they had 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, 2 left on base, and then no walks on Sunday, but 2 strikeouts and 2 left on base. So to your point, yes, they did have a good night and they did get on base, but I just want to see some more production out of them going into the tournament, because I really want to see what our lineup is. And maybe we'll set it this weekend differently, and maybe I'll feel a little bit better, but I just feel like a little bit lower down in the lineup. They're more productive, because I would like to see, look, JT, how many times is he going up to bat? First swing, home run, first swing, double. The guy's aggressive, and the guy can see pitches really, really well. I just like that out of my number one, our one hole hitter. I just like seeing that out of him. So maybe it's just a personal preference. Again, not a hit against Trey or Connor. Love both of those guys, but I would still like to see JT at the top of the lineup. My personal opinion.
Yeah, I think too. I think putting JT behind, or like later in the lineup creates a little bulk in the middle of the lineup because you know what you're going to get out of them. I want to shift real quick. Well,
but before you go there, I just want to say you also have Pastore. So put Pastore at cleanup, put JT at the top of the lineup, put Trey and Higgs behind Pastore, and I think we can call it a day. But again, Josh is good. He's not here, so I can say it. I'm not a coach. I don't know how to come up with a lineup, but in my personal opinion, that's what I would like to see out of the lineup because I think, to me, that puts us in a better position. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, it's all good. So again, on Sunday, Cajuns, again, great performance by Carson Fluno. Cajuns were able to muster 9 runs, and they basically complete the sweep against Georgia Southern by the score of 9-2. They had 10 hits, 1 error to Georgia Southern's 5 hits and 2 errors. That game was over, by the 6th inning? I knew they basically, Georgia Southern cashed in at that point, which to me was, I was just happy. Like I was happy on Saturday because we had gotten the series win. I'd said I'd be happy with the series win. To go and sweep and do it in a way where it's almost like we kind of made them quit on Sunday was even more satisfying considering the fact that it's almost like they exceeded what I expected. Because there were some people picking Georgia Southern to win this series. I mean, it was a challenge going in with some of the inconsistencies we talked about last week. But on Sunday, when we went up, I think 4-1 or 5-1, and we were just mustering these hits. I mean, just ground balls. It wasn't anything fancy, right? Like Caleb Stelly had a sacrifice grounder that scored a run. Little things like that, making contact, not striking out, being disciplined at the plate. That in itself musters runs. That in itself can muster success if we do it right. And as athletic as we are, I thought that was very beneficial for us. But to come out and win this game by the score of 9-2, to see Carson Fluno come in and just play lights out, pitch the game, pretty much his best game all year. I mean, it was beautiful. That's how we can describe it. It was beautiful.
I'm with you. When we went up 4-1 in the 6th, I was like, that's it. We're done. Because you kind of felt, I mean,
you knew they weren't going to come back from that.
I felt like
the vibe
2-1, right? The whole feeling. First of all, there was nobody in that ballpark, which was very disappointing. I think Georgia Southern has a good fan base, but they just did not show up this weekend. Thankfully, Gus the Eagle showed up and threw some shade at the fact that we don't have a mascot.
Shout out to Gus the Eagle. He has become like our BFF mascot because he has for a mascot from another school to hold the torch for our cause to get a mascot. Hey,
he's on our side, man.
Gus, we salute you, my friend. Yes,
but I never felt like this game was in question. Again, I just wanted to see more production and credit to LaFleur. I know people are going to take everything I said about the top of the lineup out of context, but he ended up getting a double later in the game and scoring a run. But all in all, going on the road and sweeping in conference is so freaking difficult. I mean, it's difficult not in conference, but to do it in conference was absolutely was dumb. And like Josh said, the attempted double squeeze, that was kind of when, they broke. That was the end of that. So, it felt good. And Texas State losing. By the way, Texas State played tonight. I see Matt Pavlich, shout out to him. Did Texas State play tonight and win?
They just played McNeese, and they are tied 5-5, top of the 9th right now.
Look, kudos to them for playing upset this weekend, getting 2 out of 3 against Troy, which is what I guess Pavlos was talking about. But yeah, all in all, very satisfied over the weekend. Got some things to clean up. Got some guys who need to get some better at bats. But other than what we've mentioned, I think we're nitpicking at this point. It was a great weekend. I don't want to sound negative at any point like we didn't do anything good. No, we did a lot of great things. Too many to even mention in this episode. And feeling really good against South Alabama this weekend, who again is a traditional rival. But since Mark Calvi, started coaching there, it just hadn't felt the same.
No, I don't think so. And I think also too with the evolution of the conference, You're starting to see more teams come in like Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina and a few others Texas State. I mean, in the last decade, and they've kind of created a rivalry with us themselves. I mean, the way I look at it in baseball, I mean, Southern Miss is our rival now. So, it's more of an old school rival with South Alabama. I know the old timers look back in the early 90s and we look at the brawls and things like that, but it's been a lot more mild over the last decade or so. And mainly maybe it's because South Alabama hasn't been as competitive as they used to be. Back in the 90s, it was always the Cajuns and South Al going back and forth. They really haven't had that type of success recently. I know they made it to a super regional, or they almost made it to a super regional recently, but it hasn't been anything. I mean, like they won the series, or they won the conference in 2021. And then 2022, we ended their season with a 10-1 score in the quarters, of the Sun Belt tournament. So I don't know, man. They're 30-22. They won their game tonight. They're not a bad team, but they're in danger of qualifying for the Sun Belt Conference tournament right now. And that's not the South. Yeah, that's not what we're used
dangerous,
to.
Jerry. That's what makes them dangerous.
Well, they're playing for their season.
Yeah. So you can't sleep on these guys. And look, we have shown a tendency to play up or down. I wouldn't even say up or down, have letdowns against competition that we shouldn't have letdowns against.
I agree with that.
So we can't go in assuming we're going to win the conference this weekend. We've got to go in Friday night acting like we're playing the best team in the country and come out with that intensity. And our fans have to be into the game, which I just saw we had a really good drink special for Thursday night, some $2 beers or $4 beers in addition to the $2 natty. So it should be a good crowd. Should be a fun crowd if they show up as they should. And look, a chance to really wrap things up on Thursday night. I don't care if you got to go to work on Friday. Call in sick, go out, have a good time, and cheer on the Cajuns. But really excited about this weekend. I think we're going to wrap it up early. I just don't think they have the horses to compete with us. But again, I don't want to assume anything. That's why they play the games, and we'll see how things go.
Well, also too, I have to give a shout out to our outfield. Going into the season, you have to replace a guy like Carson Rockefeller at center field. I got to give a shout out. Caleb Stelly. How about him solidifying that center field spot? In the last 2 years, you've had, I think it was Marshock 2 years ago. Max Marshock was a center fielder 2 years ago. Last year's Carson Rockefeller. Both guys, speedy, athletic. I mean, Rocco is probably going to be playing in the majors before we blink, right? And then, this year there were a lot of question marks. Who's going to be our outfield? I mean, that was kind of the weak point, right? Because we didn't know who's going to play outfield. I mean, it's all new guys, right? New starters. And, Higgs is, he's basically an anchor in left field. He's done a great job. I mean, he's retrieved some really, really crucial fly balls. And then, Luke Uhas, I mean, he's athletic. You've seen some of the catches he's made in right field. I'm like, he's got the size, he's big, he's bulky, he's got power, but he's got some athleticism. He's made some really impressive plays. But Caleb Stelly has done a fantastic job at center field, and his bat has complemented that. Last year, Coach Deggs played him quite often as a freshman because of the potential he has. I kind of see the same thing with Maddox Mandino, but I feel like Caleb, the game has slowed down for him, especially at the plate. He's gotten some crucial hits for us. I know he's only had one home run, but his batting average is probably in the upper half of the roster. So, got to give a shout out to those guys. I give a shout out to also Brian Broussard, who has come in. He's kind of an outfield utility guy. He's got a lot of speed. Again, Maddox Mandino, true freshman, great job as well when he comes in. I mean, we got a bunch of young talent that have come in and really stepped up and competed in a way that, to me, as a fan, I feel so much more comfortable, Nick, because of the depth that creates, and also seeing how they've hit the ball recently. I would say depth-wise, we have to be one of the deeper teams in the Sun Belt Conference, hands down.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Last couple of seasons outside of Rocco, our outfield has been a little concerning. I mean, they were missing on plays that were questionable.
It's true.
I'm trying to say it in a nice way, but we weren't great in the outfield defensively for the last couple of seasons. You don't see that this season. I feel if I feel like any of, like you said, the depth that we have in the outfield this season, you feel comfortable with any of those guys playing defensively. And then again, hitting. I mean, nobody's going to replace Rocco, but behind the plate or at the plate, you feel like they're all competitive at the plate as well. So yes, kudos to Stelly, Broussard, all of those guys that are playing some solid defense and producing at the plate. That's what we needed. Again, we've got depth there. Just all in all, good to see that we've really taken a step up there this season.
No, I agree with that. And that's huge because, I don't think any of them are seniors, right? I mean, they're all underclassmen, aren't they? Except for maybe, is Higgs a senior? I think Higgs is a senior.
I think Higgs might be a senior. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, we don't have it in front of us, but I mean, we have some youth out there, and that's to me is what's important because Caleb Selly's a sophomore. Maddox Mandino is a freshman who is now. Granted, I think he's somebody that has so much upside with his bat. I know, again, you have to adjust to the speed of the game at the collegiate level, especially when you're a top 25 team playing the competition that we play. But seeing the athleticism of these guys in the outfield to me is so important. I mean, again, Brian Broussard's only a junior. He's still got a year
Higgs
left.
is a junior, by the way.
Okay, so Higgsy is a junior. Yeah. I mean, that's so important. To me, it's like, every year we always ask, like, what are we going to have coming in? Who, what type of talent are we losing? What type of talent are we gaining? But I mean, I'm looking down the list. Brian Broussard, a junior. Lee Amadei in infield. He's a third baseman, a sophomore. Let's see. I'm trying to look. Connor Cuff, a freshman. Caleb Stelly, a sophomore. We're losing Trey LaFleur. He's a senior. Mason Zambo is only a junior. Wargy is only a junior. We got some young talent here, and we're gonna have some guys come in next year. Oh, Luke Uhas is only a sophomore. For some reason, I thought Luke was either a junior or a senior. So, just the youth of this talented team, and just some of these guys that have been able to kind of come in when you ask them to. It's going to be hard to replace a Kyle DeBarge. It's going to be hard to replace a Trey LaFleur, but I guess the way we're recruiting and the guys we're bringing in, I feel like this is a Deggs Wolfpack type team. He's got his team. It's shown this year. We had a lot of question marks coming into this season, but just seeing the grit of these guys, that's been enjoyable to watch these guys develop. But you know what else? It's the fact that this team is not only developed, they're a top 25 team. That's what's exciting to me. And, Deggs, say what you want about him. I know that, Josh sometimes gets on here and is a little critical of his lineups, and people are wondering, why does Deggs do it this way? And it's very taboo in many ways, but for some reason it works. It works. And we're starting to see that right now. I love that fast, loose, hard mantra because it's true. It's very true. And when it clicks, it clicks. So, I just love the youth. I love seeing the youth and what they've been able to do, especially the underclassmen.
Well, you said it. We can't replace a Devo, and we couldn't replace a Rocco. But what you can do is reload, and I think we've done that. And I'm going to throw Josh's comment here about the lineups. Look, I'm gonna agree with Josh in saying a lot of the times the lineup changes don't go according to plan or what
it's weird. Let's just call it what it is. It's strange.
But to your point, Jerry, at the end of the season, we're still competing to be in regionals and are in regionals. So I guess in the long run, maybe things work out. But is it because of these lineup changes or in spite of the lineup changes? I'm not getting into that debate tonight without Josh, but I'd love to. Too bad he's not on. He's having internet issues tonight because of all the storms that rolled through. But that's a whole different conversation for another day.
No, and look, yes, there are some things that make us want to pull our hair out when we watch. Okay. There's 56 games in the season, and there's a lot of times we'll watch and we're like, what the hell are we doing? But at other times it works. And what's the grand result? Well, right now you're positioned to be in a regional, you're positioned to win the regular season conference title and the fifth strongest conference in college baseball. You're a top 25 team. So it has worked this year. Now, what's going to happen when we lose some of these key guys? Well, you hope to recruit a bunch of players that can play in this system, because I find that this system, a Matt Deggs Wolfpack system, you have to have a certain characteristic to play it. And I think to me, that counters, it's kind of a counter to the NIL portal world that we're in, right? You look at the school 45 minutes to the east, they're going after players in the portal. They're going after transfers out of Arizona, California, Florida, Texas. They're going after the best of the best and paying them through NIL. And what are we doing? We're going after kids from East Texas. We're going after some of these players that otherwise would get recruited by the school 45 minutes to the east in Louisiana. We're still kind of sticking to the same formula. Now, granted, you go in the portal every once in a while, you go JUCO every once in a while, but it's not about who gets the best NIL deal. If you don't fit the system, you're not coming here, you're not playing. And so we kind of have stuck to that same credo that has always been kind of Matt Deggs' forte. And I like the fact that we've been able to counter it in this environment. Now, you have to evolve a little bit, but I don't feel like we've taken away from the basis of what we try to recruit to. And actually, to me, it works to our advantage going after some of these players. I mean, look, we just signed a player from Barb. We got a player from Catholic High at Baton Rouge, which was a top 10 team nationally. Otherwise, if that school to the east doesn't go after these kids nationally, they're getting them instead of us. So obviously, I like the fact that we're recruiting these type of athletes that even though you have the NIL and portal world, you're still getting the type of talent that you need to compete on a national level. And it's working. That's the beauty of it. It's working. And I feel like that machine's rolling now. You know, Coach Deggs is in his 5th year as a head coach. I feel like that system's really rolling effectively at the moment.
And I think you can look to professionally, and you see Cantrell just got called up. I think he's in AAA now. You see Aaron Getty pitching for the Astros.
Got his first win, by the way. Got his first win as an Astros starting pitcher the other night.
Was it last night? Yeah. It was last night.
Congratulations to Spencer Arrighetti on that.
You know,
that was huge.
Rocco's going to be there. Who was with the A's last season pitching?
Hogan Harris.
Hogan. I couldn't think of his name. Hogan. So when you start getting guys in the show and guys that are making their way up, I think it makes it a lot easier to recruit. To look, NIL is going to be a thing, and obviously we're making it work in baseball. But I think Deggs' system, as you described it, is unique because it's not for everyone. And we've seen that. We've seen guys like a Chipper Bernard leave. And we've seen a couple of other players leave because it just wasn't for them. But for the most part, despite NIL, you still see a lot of guys like a Debo with all the talent he's got staying. Hopefully SEMO is going to be the same thing. And I think the advantage there when you have a system in place that is designed for the players that you recruit, you're not the team 60 miles down the road that is recruiting guys to a paycheck. You are recruiting guys to a system and success in the future. And I think when you can recruit to that and you have a history of winning and you have a history of a wolf pack and you know it's not going to be easy and you're going to be challenged and you accept that, then I think you're going to have guys that aren't me guys that are only coming to you for a check that they're seeing down the road in the almighty SEC. Because there's a whole lot of me guys in the SEC right now in baseball. Not a whole lot of me guys on the Raging Cajuns baseball team this year. And that's really translated. And I think you see that in a Southern Miss as well. And you see that a lot of teams in our conference. You don't have guys chasing NIL money in the Sun Belt. You got guys that are being recruited to the system. And again, it's not for everyone. And you might have a little bit of attrition every now and again. But you're not going to get yourself caught in a situation where you have a super year and then you fall off the cliff the next year, because that core is going to still be there because that system doesn't change. The NIL money might change, but that system's not going to change. And you're not going to be filled with a whole lot of me guys. You're going to be filled with more we guys.
I like the fact that we are recruiting. It kind of reminds me of when Mike Leach coached at Texas Tech, right? His philosophy was, look, we're not going to get the 5 stars that would otherwise go to Texas, but we will get the 3-star who feels who feels that they've been disrespected by a Texas, and we're going to get those guys together. And it's not about the ego. They're hungry. They want to win. They want to prove something to you. And guess what? What happened? He took a Texas Tech team and put them in the top 5, top 10 every year. and beat Texas a few times because he had guys that kind of had a chip on their shoulder. I like recruiting guys with a chip on their shoulder. Raging Cajun baseball's always been that way. We've always won with guys with chip on their shoulders. The 14 team, most of the players were from here. Lafayette, New Orleans. I mean, they were local guys. We didn't go to Florida or, California to go get all this talent. And at the time, of course, NIL wasn't around, but we recruited guys that wanted to be here. We recruited guys that had a chip on their shoulder. We recruited guys that wanted to play to a system and play as a team. You look at the school to the east right now. I mean, barring a good series against Ole Miss, I mean, they've got almost I want to say they have somewhere around a $2 million NIL budget just for baseball. And they're in danger of not even qualifying for their conference tournament a year removed from winning a national title. So the point is, money can't buy you wins. What it can do is bring talent in, but if you don't have the chemistry in the locker room, if you don't play as a team, if you have a bunch of me guys in spite of the talent, it's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, you look at some of these teams around the country right now. Look at Texas. Texas has all the money in the world. They literally have a treasure chest hidden in their campus probably with all the money they have. They're struggling right now in baseball. I mean, you look at a bunch of these teams with all of this money and all these resources, they can't win. It's not because they're not talented. It's not because they have bad players. They just don't have the chemistry. They don't have that camaraderie in the locker room. And it's really, I'll say this, it's exposed a lot of that through NIL, and it's proven that, you can't just win off of paying players crazy NIL amounts. I mean, another example is the Florida Gators. I want to say they're number 1 or number 2 in NIL money in baseball. And they're a team that's, I don't know, I think they're barely getting into the conference tournament as well. So, yeah, look, we don't have $2 million war chest and NIL money, but what we do have is just enough to give our players what they need to be compensated, but also give them an opportunity to play, whereas they may have felt rejected at other schools or may have felt like they have a chip on their shoulder. Give me the player with the chip on his shoulder who has throwdown over somebody who just wants to come in for a crazy NIL deal all day, every day.
And I think Pavlich just pointed one out. Blaine Lucas, I met his dad, Scott, at the
nice.
series last year. And they're right up. I mean, I'm in Cypress. Tomball is like right there. It's not far from me. Dude's got an arm and dude can hit the ball. But he's got, when you talk about throwdown, I mean, watching this kid's highlights and seeing his dad post things, this is what you're talking about. It's kids who are not selfish and kids who have the throwdown. And so excited to see seeing Blaine Lucas. I think he's going to be a freshman next year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it's next year or the year after, but lots of great players in the pipeline for Raging Cajuns baseball. Again, you're not going to replace a guy like Rocco or Debo, but you're going to reload with some really, really good players. So the future is very bright for this program.
Very excited, but guess what? I'm enjoying the ride right now with the success we have right now this season. And again, that'll continue on this weekend. One last chance to see the Cajuns at home as they play the hated rival of South Alabama last weekend of the regular season before the Sun Belt Conference tournament. You get a chance to do a bunch of things. You get a chance to basically thank the seniors. We have a bunch of seniors on the team that put their blood, sweat, and tears into this program. Get to say goodbye to them once more. You get a chance to see the Cajuns have a chance to dogpile. Hopefully, I don't know if they're going to dogpile or not. I know everybody's talking about, are they going to dogpile? But to clinch the regular season title at home on our field. And you also have a chance to see the Cajuns one last time before conference tournament play starts. Again, Louisiana, 38-15 and 21-6 in conference. They have clinched a share of the conference regular season title. They have a chance to clinch it outright this weekend. If you get a chance, if you go on the softball regional, but you want to go catch a few innings at the Teague, go to the Teague, check it out. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Hopefully the weather stays away. I know we had some bad weather come through the other night. Hopefully it stays away this weekend because it should be a fun weekend of baseball and a lot happening around the Sun Belt Conference to see who will be seated where. It's nice to sit comfortably at the number 1 seed because we already know where we're going to be, but to watch the musical chairs commence with the other teams, it'll be a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, get out to the Teague starting on Thursday. Louisiana taking on South Alabama. First pitch will be at 6 o'clock on Thursday. Friday, first pitch will be at 6 o'clock. Saturday, last game of the regular season, 2 o'clock first pitch. No Sunday game. Of course, the last weekend of of the regular season, especially in the Sun Belt Conference. Always a Thursday, Friday, Saturday game to get ready for the Sun Belt Conference tournament in Montgomery, which will start on Tuesday. And so, yeah, head out to the Teague this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. I know I'll be there. Last few chances. You got the beer night on Thursday. And of course, Friday night should be exciting. Big crowd on Friday night and Saturday. One last chance to say goodbye to the seniors. Of course, after the game, they'll have the graduation ceremony for the seniors. And of course, our favorite tradition, the best seventh inning stretch of all of college baseball. One last chance to clap to center field before the end of the regular season. I'm just excited it's always bittersweet the last weekend, but also too, it's that doorway to the postseason, right? As much as I hate going the last weekend, because it's always hard to say goodbye, I get excited because I'm like, man, okay, so if we have a good weekend at the Teague, or maybe sweep or take 2 out of 3, all right, what can we do now going into the postseason? How does it set up? So get a chance to make it. If you can't make it, the games will be on 96.5. You can listen to Jay and Brad on the air or watch on ESPN3 or sync your radio to ESPN3, whatever you do. Shout out to Joe Bio and his crew. They do a fantastic job. Hands down, one of the best in the country when it comes to ESPN production. Great job. He got the drone out there last time. I'm curious to see what kind of cool gadgets and new gimmicks we're gonna have this weekend. It only gets better for each broadcast, Nick. So looking forward to that.
No, I agree. Joel listens to the fans, and when we give some feedback on things we see other places and other streams, he takes it to heart, and we see it almost the next stream. So I think the last thing was on Georgia Southern stream. They had the ticker at the bottom, which highlighted scores around the conference and upcoming games. So I have no doubt, Joel, if I know him, and I'm not trying to call him out here and say he's got to have it. I'm just saying, if I know Joel, he'll probably have something similar this weekend. So just fantastic job by the stream team. Can't wait to see what they do this weekend.
So right now in real time, Cajuns actually dropped a spot in RPI, but they did move up a spot since we started the pod. They're now at number 38. So still a good place to be, Nick. Still a good place to be with 3 games left. And of course, they have a chance to make it even better, hopefully in the conference tournament. But look, we got in last year, I believe, as an at-large at 42, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was it 42 we got in? So
it was in the 40s for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're already ahead of the game. So just take care of business, get the job done this weekend, and the rest will take care of itself. So anyway, that's going to do it for baseball. Moving on to softball. Again, for the first time since 2016, the road to Oklahoma City passes through Yvette Girard Field at Russo Park. Cajuns hosting once again, thankfully, finally. We've been talking about hopefully not getting the short end of the stick there like we did last year, getting sent to Baton Rouge. It's good to see the Cajuns will be hosting their regional this weekend as the 13 national seed. A lot of respect to the ladies. Congratulations to Coach Glasgow and the Raging Cajun softball team. They'll start their track to Oklahoma City this weekend on Friday at 4:30. First pitch against the Princeton Tigers out of the Ivy League. And they will take on the winner of Baylor and Ole Miss. So we have a Big 12 school, an Ivy League school, and an SEC school coming to town. It's actually a pretty tough regional, Nick. I look at some of these other regionals, especially in the SEC, and I'm looking and I'm like, man, I wish I could get what they got. But hey, you know what, Nick? If you want to go to Oklahoma City, you got to beat the best, right? What better way to be prepared to go to the College World Series than get challenged early on, especially in your home stadium, which should be advantageous to us with this crowd that we're going to have.
Yeah, I just got to say, I've got faith in the ladies, and you make it out of this regional. Look, to me, you have the advantage. Who they're paired up with? They're paired up with
Florida. So they're paired up with the 4 seed in the Gainesville regional, the Florida Gators, who also, might I add, South Alabama got in as an at-large to the Gainesville regional. Congratulations to South Alabama, the Lady Jags getting in. 3rd team in the Sun Belt Conference. That's 2 teams besides Louisiana, 3 teams total. The Cajuns, Texas State going to the College Station regional, and South Alabama going to the Florida regional. So Florida will take on Florida Gulf Coast. South Alabama will take on FAU. So South Alabama is the one non-Florida team in the Florida regional, But congratulations. Hey, go win that thing. Make the Sun Belt proud. So when we win our regional, we'll have a super here in Lafayette, right?
Well, that was what it was getting to, is that
Yeah.
I think if we win the Lafayette regional, I think it set yourself up to be in a really good spot on whoever you face in the supers. But hell, I mean, what if South Alabama goes out there and wins that regional, and then we win ours and we host South Alabama at Lamson Park? That would be insane. Like, at that point, we're getting a Sun Belt team into Oklahoma City, into the Women's College World Series. That would just be absolutely incredible. But hey, one game at a time. Beat Princeton. Congratulations to the Sun Belt. It showed. Look, I gotta say, I am so very proud, and JMU has taken a step back these last couple of years, but I'm so proud of the way that the conference has stepped up in competition, because for so many years it was just like
it was us.
a write-in. It was us and nobody else. And now you're talking about having an at-large team in addition to us, or two at-large teams in addition to the conference champion. And you look at the potential that we have with a JMU as well. It just bodes well for what they're doing. We need to do the same in basketball. We need to get to that point, but very, very proud on the way that this league has stepped up in competition to put us in that position to get 3 teams into a regional. Keep it up and keep going in the right direction. But again, you said it's a tough regional. Any regional we're going to host is going to be a tough regional. Just take care of business. We know Baylor beat us this year. We've played them already. I think that gives you a little bit, not necessarily an advantage, but your competition when you're playing somebody you've already played this season. But you're at home at Lamson. We always bring it in front of the home crowd. But what we saw against Texas State in the conference tournament final is what we've seen at times this season. Is sometimes Sam struggles in the circle, and sometimes we're prone to errors, and we did both of those. It wasn't just one or the other. We did both of those in the championship game. So we've got to clean that up against even better competition this weekend. I expect us to win against Princeton. I think if we win the second game against the winner of Baylor or Ole Miss, I think that bodes very, very well for us, right?
I agree.
So I think that's going to be the real challenge, but you can't sleep against Princeton, because again, if you go in and you start booting the ball and you can't pitch, then that becomes a problem. But I think, again, if you go into game 2 and you're 2-0 in your own tournament that you're hosting, I think it bodes very well for them to get into the Supers. So just take care of business, ladies, and we'll be back in the Supers. I think you're owed an Oklahoma City visit after last season. So, just hoping for the best and excited to see what they do this weekend.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. So, the last 2 weeks, I know you've been very, very bare on the fact that you thought that the committee would basically not award us a regional, and rightfully so, right? Last year, the Cajuns were number 10 in RPI, or number 10 or 11 in RPI last season, and we got sent to Baton Rouge. And the big argument was, well, you didn't have enough top 25 wins. Going into this weekend, all of the prognosticators, all of the media, the predictions had us as somewhere between a 13 and a 16. And of course, you still have the CDS in the back of your mind, the Cajun. You still got a little bit of Cajun disaster syndrome, because, we there have been times where we thought we should have hosted, just like last year. And you would think they would give it to like an Alabama, or of course they gave the 16 seed to Texas A&M, which, by the way, going back to what you talked about, the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, look, Texas State had a valid argument of hosting that regional. You talk about the Sun Belt improving in softball. You're absolutely right, Nick, because, look, it was upsetting to lose to Texas State, but Texas State earned that championship against us. They did. They're a good softball team. They split the series with us this year, 2-2. They are a good softball team. They have a good pitcher. They've got some good hitters. They're very competitive. And this was their year to shine, and they did. With that said, I thought that they actually had a decent enough resume to host. You could have actually made an argument for bringing a regional to San Marcos. So that's 2 teams in the Sun Belt alone that were good enough to host. I had a feeling they weren't going to get it because they were probably going to give it to somebody else, like a Big 12 or an SEC team. Of course, it went to Texas A&M. But the parity in the Sun Belt Conference, like you said, JMU's not having the best year. But what's going to happen when they do? Troy usually has a good team. They didn't make a regional this season. And you've got 2 or 3 or even 4 more teams in this conference who are capable of making the regional. And guess what? I think that quality of the conference and how it's improved actually probably boosted us to that regional host spot. I think also too, last year, the big argument was, well, you didn't have enough top 25 wins. I think we only had like 3 last year. Well, this year we had 6. Also, the selection committee, I know the eye test really has no bearing on the selection, but I think human nature plays a role in that. If the selection committee sees us beat Oklahoma, who won 71 straight games, and to go to their house and beat them, and then on top of that, you beat a TSAB team that was ranked in the top 10. You had 6, I believe it was 6 top 25 RPI wins. If you can't see all of that success and you're a top 25 team, your RPI was around 11 or 12. At that point, if the selection committee saw that and goes, well, I don't know if they deserve a regional in Lafayette, we would never ever host again. Because to me, that resume that we got this year, I don't know if you could do any better than that, Nick. You had the number 1 non-conference strength of schedule. I want to say your strength of schedule was in the top 5 or something ridiculous like that. Your quad 1 wins, I think you had like 15 quad 1 wins. You beat Oklahoma, you beat LSU, all of that. I just, at that point, I don't know how, if we would have gotten that regional host bid, if we would have ever gotten it ever again after the resume we produced this season. I don't know how we would have done it.
Look, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think that there is still this inherent bias in all of college athletics, and you want to point to a couple of them. Florida State in the CFP last year, getting passed over for Alabama. Florida State should have been in the CFP. Alabama gets picked and shouldn't have. You look at Texas State again. Instead of hosting, they give it to Alabama, who has a losing record in conference, or Texas A&M. So there's this inherent bias that we have got. If we're going to truly have a level playing field, which I don't believe we'll ever have, but if that's the ultimate goal in college athletics, then you've got to get rid of this inherent this bias, this assumed bias that people have when making these decisions. Now, do I agree with Josh? Josh said Sunbelt got the respect they deserved, not having to be paired with OU and Texas. Yes, I'm not complaining about our seedings. I think outside of Texas State, in my opinion, should have been hosting over a team that couldn't have a winning record in conference. I think we had a pretty good draw. That being said, we still have to go against this bias that is based off of names on your chest and conferences you play in versus the actual, you said eye test. There is no eye test anymore. It's Alabama. Well, who cares but they're in the SEC. So automatic check, right?
It's human nature though, Nick, because and that's another thing I forgot to add. Like after last year, they didn't give us the regional host. What happened when they sent us to Baton Rouge? We won the regional, And so this year when they're sitting in their meeting rooms and they're looking at our name, they had to have taken that into account. Okay, we sent them to Baton Rouge last year. We didn't think they were worthy of a host because they didn't have this many wins or whatever against top 25 competition. And they won the regional we sent them to. Oh, and then they beat Oklahoma. I mean, I know the eye test doesn't have anything to do with it, but I just think it's natural human nature. It's like when you catch, it's like peripheral vision, right? Like you don't really see it, but you know it's there. I think there's a little bit of a subconscious bias that helped us get in there because of what we did. Not necessarily a bias, but what we did, that even though that's not their formula, that's something you can't ignore. You can't ignore ending Oklahoma's 71-game win streak. You can't ignore getting sent to Baton Rouge and winning the regional last year, making it to a super. You can't ignore those things. And so I think even though they have their formula of, you got to win this many games in top 25 competition, again, when you do those kind of things, I just feel like that kind of gave us that nudge, even though they'll never admit it. That to me was really important. And also too, beating Oklahoma, you were 9-12. You beat Oklahoma, you go on a 33-5 run. You basically sleepwalk through the conference, in a tough conference, by the way, and you take care of business, and then you maintain a top 25 status and a top 15 RPI. I mean, at that point, it was almost inevitable that we were going to get picked. And look, I'm not going to lie, man. When they were doing the selection show, and I know, by the way, shout out to Adopted Dog Brewery. I didn't get to go, but I saw pictures and everything, and I saw footage. It looked like they had a great presentation there. I had some friends that were there, and they did a really good job. So job well done. I know Ryan and Tracy Pico listen to the pod. They're big fans of the pod. We're friends, and got to give a shout out to their watch party. But, I'm not going to lie, man. Like, Kayla even made a comment as I'm watching the selection show. She goes, "Babe, you look kind of tense." I said, "Well, after what happened last year, I'm not going to guarantee we're hosting." And I'm not going to lie, man, when that Baton Rouge regional came up, I was waiting for them to say the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana are going to Baton Rouge again. I don't know what it is, but I was nervous about that. I was nervous about anywhere close, like Texas or any of those type of regionals that were close by that we were going to get sent there. Arkansas, I was a little nervous. Like they're going to say Louisiana. Man, when Lafayette regional came up, I was like, yes, finally. But then it was great to see that it was great to see that we got the respect that we earned. I felt like we earned that respect this year where they couldn't really, not let us host. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I'm being dramatic. I had in my heart, I had no doubt we would host. So yes, I'm being a little dramatic when saying I was holding my breath, which I was when I saw a couple of names pop up. The one name I was not nervous about was TSAB, because unbeknownst to a lot of people, last year in baseball, TSAB actively campaigned against us in baseball being in their regional. And I'm not lying. Like, this is from very trusted sources. They actively campaigned against us being in the regional. You could say because they were scared of us. I don't know, but they did not want us there. And so we went to Miami, which was very unusual when you go back and look at it. Like, it's supposed to be a regional tournament. They sent us to Miami, which is about the furthest place on the earth they could send us to for this kind of tournament.
Go ahead.
So there was a lot of active campaigning by people who will not be named on this podcast for us not to go there in baseball. Now, not so much in softball, but that's why I wasn't nervous this year, because I guarantee you if there was any possibility of us being sent to Baton Rouge, wasn't going to happen. Because one, they didn't want to see us there, and two, they wield a little bit of power because of those who were in charge of that conference. So I wasn't worried about TSAB, but other, like you said, when an Arkansas came up, and I think there was another team that came up, and I was like, all right, is this it? I think Southeastern's name was called, and I was like, okay, we're not in that one. So just very interesting, but no, I'm being a little dramatic. I did not expect us not to host this season, but it would not have shocked me. Like, I would have come on here and been like, par for the course had somebody been picked ahead of us.
It makes me laugh because, you have all these big schools, like these so-called, I know it's softball, but in football, the P5 schools, right? We were the only like non P5 school that is getting a host, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's any others that got that. They were all SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, UCLA, Stanford. And we were the only school in a more of a little bit of a smaller conference that got the host. And I thought that was really cool. It's good to represent the mid-majors in many ways. Now, there was a big debate. I don't know if it was on Raging Cajun or people just talking on social media. We talk about mid-major polls and things like that, especially in baseball. But I mean, I don't really consider our baseball and softball programs to be mid-majors. I would say in softball, we're like Gonzaga, basically. And like they are in basketball. You can't really say like in other words, mid-major, the term mid-major is more or less like a surprise to people whenever like you win, right? In softball, for softball gurus, it's kind of expected for us to win. Like, there's no shocker if the Cajuns end up in Oklahoma City because it's almost expected for us, I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up. The term mid-major in baseball and softball, to me, it doesn't really bear the meaning as it does maybe in football, right?
It is another tool that people have to have a delineation between the haves and the haves not, or have nots, I should say. So I'm so sick of hearing that word, period. But mid-major, by the way, was created for basketball to, again, have a division saying, oh, you're the haves and you're the have-nots. And just like P5 and G5 is the same in football. And now that's trickling down slowly to baseball and softball because they want, and I mean, it's so stupid. I hate when people use the term P5 and G5 in softball and baseball because there is no such term.
Well, it doesn't exist.
There is no division. There is nothing. You're correct. And there shouldn't be in football, but that's a whole nother podcast. But it's just a way for those who are either very successful in very successful top conferences, like an SEC or a Big 10 or a Big 12 or whatever, to flex their muscles and just say, oh, well, you're not as good as us because because we're this, we're power or whatever. It doesn't exist. It's all in your minds. Just because someone says it doesn't make it so. So screw that. And look, I like 11.7, but when they come out with this stupid mid-major baseball poll, I almost want to mute them when they show that on Twitter because that's stupid. There is no such thing as mid-major in baseball. So stop making it a thing because it's not a thing. And by making it a thing, you're just buying into whatever crap that the SEC and all those conferences are feeding you. Don't buy into it. There is no such thing as a mid-major in baseball. No such thing as a mid-major in softball. I'll say there's no such thing as a mid-major in any college sport. It's just a term people use to hold those other schools down that they don't feel are worthy or competing for a national championship.
Well, I mean, you can't say that in baseball and softball because you have a lot of these schools that have not only competed but won national championships. You know,
but
Cal State Fullerton.
We still give these people a platform to say it, and we buy into it. Stop buying into it.
Yeah, no, and in the diamond sports, I don't buy into any of that foolishness. I mean, you look at baseball, just look down the history: Long Beach State, Cal State Fullerton, Fresno State, Coastal Carolina. I mean, we were in the Final Four one year,
right?
I mean, yeah. So this idea that it's only these big schools that win, it's not true. We've seen it, and now, granted, the last couple of years, the bigger schools have won, but you look at what who was it that ended up in Omaha last year? They were a Cinderella. They didn't, I think they went 2-0, but they still made it.
Hell, Coastal Carolina won a natty.
Right,
Maine run a national championship in baseball. Like
UNO went. Yeah, UNO went.
Stop
to Omaha
calling it a mid-major. It's not a mid-major sport.
Right. But anyways, well, especially in diamond sports, when it comes to the Cajuns, there's no Oral Roberts. Yeah, thanks, Bryce. Oral Roberts went last year. But to your point, I mean, in baseball and softball, when it comes to Cajun softball and Cajun baseball, no, I wouldn't consider us a mid-major because we have competed on a national stage consistently. So anyway, just wanted to get that off my chest. If you do want to show up to Yvette Gerard Field at Lamson Park this weekend, just to let you know, season ticket holders, softball season ticket holders, check your emails. You should have received a notification today to order your tickets for the regional this weekend. For non-season ticket holders, those of you who don't have season tickets but want to go check out a regional game this week, I'm not sure if they come in single game tickets or packages, but tomorrow, officially Wednesday, 10 a.m., it will be open to the general public. So check, by the track and field ticket office. They should give you all the information you need. So tomorrow, Wednesday, 10 a.m., tickets will be available to the general public if you do want to head out to Yvette Gerard Field at Lamson Park for this weekend's softball regional. Nick, one last thing I want to talk about before we go. I was on social media. I've been all over social media this week, of course, with the Rage and Review app or my own account, and I couldn't help but laugh. Dude, there's a Facebook page. I think it was Boot Crew Media. And they had a graphic of all the teams in the state of Louisiana that made it to a softball regional. I think it was just 3 teams. It was us, it was TSAB, and it was Southeastern, and maybe one more. I think it was just us 3, the 3 schools. Well, they said something like, congratulations to LSU, UL, and Southeastern. Best of luck. And the comments, most people were congratulatory, but you had those 2 or 3 snarky people that made a comment like, who's UL and why is it called UL? And oh, here we go with the name. And I'm just thinking, are we still talking about that in 2024? Like ESPN and all of these major outlets, anytime you look at a top 25 baseball poll or top 25 softball poll, it has Louisiana in bold letters. And look, to those people that are complaining about that, look, man, the battle's over. We won. Okay. Give it up. I just find it funny because they get all mad. Like, I don't understand why you don't adopt Lafayette as your city. And I don't get why y'all decide to try to be what you're not. Isn't that what branding is? Like, did you not take a marketing branding class? Like when you advertise something bigger and better than what you really are to get people to buy in. Like this idea that these people want us to stay regional, expecting that to help our brand is one of the most counterproductive, non-business, just ignorant viewpoints that you can take. And it is really not about that. You know what it is, Nick? And you know what? You know the answer. All of Cajun Nation knows the answer. They want us to kowtow to the school to the east. We got to kiss the ring. We got to appreciate one of the arguments that one of the fans said was, unlike you guys, the other schools respect that LSU's the flagship. And I said, there it is right there. We don't kiss the ring. We don't bow down to the tiger statue. So because we don't do that, you got to get mad at asking who's UL in Louisiana. You know who UL in Louisiana is, okay? When you have to ask that, when you have to make comments about that, look, just give it up, okay? You lost the battle. It's over. Quit complaining about it. It's not going to change anything. You want to go write a letter to your senator or your congressman, go ahead. You want to go write a letter to your state rep, go ahead. Because then when they bring that to the floor of the state capitol and they complain about how we brand ourselves, just wait till that makes national news and how ridiculous it makes us already. I mean, we already look ridiculous as a state with the things we do, but the battle's over, man. Give it up. Give it up.
First of all, shout out to T-Boy A-Bear. I love seeing him in the chat. Every time I see him, it makes me smile. So what's up, T-Boy? I don't care. We won. It's a sign you won. When people are doing that, you won the battle. Second of all, just like you can point to any school that has, quote, national attention, Ohio State, Alabama, TSAB, Florida State, go down the list. 90% of those fans, one, never step foot on campus. And two, how do I say this without being, I'm just going to say it. Never won anything in life. They never played competitive sports. They never were successful in anything. So this is what they hold on to. This is their winning. They associate themselves with winning programs because it's easy. Of course it's easy to support the Patriots when Tom Brady was quarterback. Of course it was easy to support freaking the Kansas City Chiefs when they were winning all these Super Bowls. But you know what's funny is that why aren't there as many Astros fans in Louisiana as there are Atlanta Braves fans? Because they were on TV, because they were nationally televised, and growing up, they were on TV, so kids grew up watching them. So what people fail to understand is that all these teams, an Ohio State, a TSAB, a Florida State, all these teams, I wouldn't go as far as Florida State, but all these teams are nationally televised. So kids growing up attach themselves to what they see on TV. Just like, again, the Braves, for some reason, we hate Atlanta and Louisiana, but we have so many Braves fans because they were on TV. So when you combine that with a team that, one, illegally paid their players and now legally pay their players to win and are always on TV, well, yeah, it's easy to be a fan of a winning program. Where are they during the last years of Ed Orgeron? Where were they during the last years of Urban Meyer or Jim Tressel at Ohio State? Where were they? Nowhere to be found. You couldn't find a fan. Even Alabama, until Nick Saban got there, couldn't find one. Now all of a sudden it's Roll Tide. And when you see the people you're getting upset about, Jerry, they're people who have, again, never had success in life, so they're attaching themselves to these programs that have success. It's easy to do. Just look at the audience. And that's why I don't get upset, because you're arguing with people that attach themselves to these programs because it makes them feel successful. If UL goes 0-3 this weekend, poo-poos the bed in the conference tournament, doesn't make a regional by some chance, I'm going to spend my summer in my pool and go about my business.
Same. Yeah.
These people are going to go off of the deep end. And it's even more apparent, Jerry, when, Twitter is a perfect example. I posted something about our 7th inning stretch being the best in the boot, best in Louisiana. You would have thought I posted something about murdering someone in public, because the reaction from some of those folks 60 miles across the basin was, you would have sworn I did something illegal and that I was an idiot for even saying that, because they are so used to being to that program winning at everything that if you hint at that you're better at something than them, they lose their freaking minds. So that's why you don't argue with them. You just take it in stride, because in the end you're the winner. But and this proves it. Like, I could say the sky is blue and those people would argue with me and tell me I'm an idiot and it's purple. Like, it's stupid. Who are these people?
To even argue that our 7th inning stretch is not best in the state is just straight up ridiculous. I mean, come on, man. Yeah, that's not even up for debate. There's certain things where you just have to accept that you're not number one, especially look, we got the best 7th inning stretch in the country. It's not even the state.
It is not in these people's DNA. And I'm not just saying the TSAT fans. I'm saying in general, these fans of programs that are so used to winning, it's not in their DNA to just not be the best at everything. God forbid somebody is good at something, they will throw, well, we got 27,000 natties. Who cares? You still suck at the 7th inning stretch. I don't care how many natties you have. It's this recurring, I don't even know what to call it. It's just like a little man syndrome that you should be proud of what you accomplish, but don't shit on me because we accomplished something better than you. But then they wonder why we're not fans of the other program. Well, it's because of people like you.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the name thing. It shouldn't matter, because if you really are that, like, this idea that it's like these people they move the goalposts and they talk on both sides of their mouths, because when you like, we do the Louisiana name as a way of branding, okay? And when they say something like, well, you're trying to be something that you're not. Well, isn't that what branding is? Perception. When you brand something, it's like whenever you go to a Vegas hotel, right? And you have the neon lights in front of the hotel. The hotel may be a 2-star hotel, but it looks nice on the outside. And you know what it does? It gets people to come in. Should they get rid of the neon lights because it's not what it really is on the inside? That's advertising 101. Like, do these people not take advertising and branding classes and understand how this works?
Jerry, again, it's insecurity. You think that Texas
was what's there to be insecure about?
But again, because
why should it matter to them? It's weird.
Let me get there, Jerry. In Texas, do you think the University of Texas cared when Texas State changed their name to Texas State? No, they did not. They were not threatened by them. The state of Louisiana has a history of saying the haves and haves nots. And for so long, there's a history of TSAB being, this is it, and everybody else is at a second level, that anybody who challenges the fact that maybe we could have 2 of those, they're immediately stepped on and said, no, who do you think you are? There's absolutely no way you can do that. So it's hundreds of years of this crap going on in our own state. And you see it in everything else. I mean, you can understand why it's like that in politics. It's like that in everything else. You can have multiple good things in the state, but the mentality that has been ingrained into the system of things is, oh no, well, you can't be great and we can't be great. No. You need to remember who you are. You're never going to be as great as us because we're the greatest. you don't have to be threatened. There shouldn't be a threat between the University of Louisiana system and the Louisiana State University system, but there is. Go back to 1984. Why the hell did we change our name to the University of Louisiana and then have a campaign to actively change the name back? Because you were threatened.
Nick,
because there was because people are so scared that by being better, you're going to take somebody else a notch down. And that's backward ass thinking that is ingrained into the state. And that's why you can't go forward. It's because we take 2 steps back.
Nick, they were threatened by the name from SLI to USL. Remember the newspaper article in 1960?
I remember that.
And the LSU president came out and said specifically, I don't know if they should change the name of the University of Southwestern Louisiana. It might help them grow. And I'm like, is that bad if the school tries to help itself grow? I mean, you're threatened by the school changing the name to USL. Like when I read that newspaper article, my jaw just kind of dropped because I'm like, were they really worried about that? And it's not just them. I'm not trying to focus solely on them. It's the mentality of the state because, reading this on social media, it wasn't just TSAP fans. It was ULM fans. There were Louisiana Tech fans. And I'm just thinking, they were like, well, you all, they're trying to act bigger than all the other schools in the system and they're not fair. It's not fair that they're doing that. And I'm like, well, I mean, if this helps the school grow, then too bad. If that helps the school grow in their name, then too bad. I'm sorry. Like this idea that, you're so worried about what a school brands itself, worry about your own school. Worry about you got problems too. Worry about you. Why are you worried about us? It
was a Lake Charles politician who was campaigning on behalf of McNeese and also TSAB legislators against. He's the one who created the bill to make our name illegal after the fact. Cliff Newman. He's the guy who did it. So to your point, it's not just TSAB. It's McNeese was right there with him because, again, instead of trying to better themselves, they want to hold other schools down because of the threat that they're going to pass them up.
And I'm
always up for a challenge. If somebody thinks that they're better than me, prove that you are. But we don't even want to have competition. We just want to have this system in place where nobody can challenge authority. And that's why, again, Louisiana is 49th and 50th and everything, because that's why we can't have nice things. We can have multiple nice schools in Louisiana, but instead we say, oh no, we can't challenge the big boy. They're always going to be big. How dare you think that you're more than you are?
You know what my response is to people that say know your place? You know what my response is? Okay, so you want to be complacent. That's what know your place is. Be complacent. Be complacent. And you know what complacency has gotten us in Louisiana? Complacency has gotten us 49th and 50th and everything. Complacency has gotten 100,000 people moving out of the state every year to better opportunities in Texas and Florida and Colorado and North Carolina and California, right? Not California. What am I saying? No, like Arizona. You moved to Texas. You're a prime example, right? You're Louisiana homegrown. You love this state, but you left for better opportunity because of that mindset that moved you to Houston. And that's the thing. Like, you have these people that are so worried about those kind of things, and they don't focus on the things that actually matter. People are leaving the state in droves. The state is one of the poorest states in the union, but we can't let ULL change their name. Oh my gosh, of all the problems we have in the state, and that's what you're focused on. And there's a reason why we are where we are. When you say know your place, what you're saying is keep the status quo the way that it is. And the status quo is 50th and everything. So that's why we come on as a podcast to let them know, hey, you know what? Competition's good. Branding is good. When you have 2 or 3 schools that compete against one another, it puts a kick swift in the behind to the other school that makes them want to actually improve and not be complacent, which is what's happened. It's created complacency. So, I didn't mean to go on this long tirade about that, but it's crazy. And I know we won the battle, but it just, I don't like reading ignorance. Ignorance is a pet peeve of mine. And that's just when I read that kind of stuff. And, I have another person on that Facebook post that, like, one of them made a comment who, by the way, I'm not going to name this lady, but she's a UL graduate who said something like, oh, ULL has a good softball team. Who knew? And I'm like, almost commented, lady, have you been living under a rock? Like, do you not know we've been successful for like 40 plus years? Our head coach went to Baton Rouge to turn your softball program around. Our head coach. So to say something that to be brave enough to post that publicly and just to think that you're witty in saying that, oh, ULL has a softball team. I'm like, you literally live under a rock, like, to say something like that.
Well, to be fair, Jerry, I mean, we have to start teaching recruits how to say our name correctly, because nothing makes my eyes bleed more than recruits to our own program butchering the name of the university they're going to. So, Troy, if you're listening, man, let's get the word out. I mean, we gotta start getting our recruits on board to understand what our name and branding is. But anyway, Jerry, I'm tired of talking about this. I'm getting aggravated and I'm tired.
It's all good, man. All that matters is teams are winning. ESPN, all the major outlets are calling us Louisiana. Everybody knows we're Louisiana. We've won the battle. And sometimes I have to call out the ignorance, but it is what it is. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Just to let you know, Cajun baseball starting on Thursday night. Check out the Teague last weekend to go see the Cajuns hopefully clinch that Sun Belt Conference regular season title. Softball this weekend. Regionals. Hopefully we have we've talked a little bit about softball. We hope to give you a special treat by the end of the week. We'll let you know about that. Keep in touch as far as looking for updates there. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe, listen. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok. You can listen to us on Spotify and Apple iTunes. Thanks one more time to our sponsors, Dr. Brett Venable, Recovery Chiromed, as well as Absolutely Embroidery and more. Whoa, that was fun tonight, Nick. That's going to do it for tonight for the Rager Review podcast. I'm Jerry, and thanks again, Nick. Great time, fellas. Great time. In the words of the late, great Big Dave Thibodeau, bye. We out of here. See you next week for more Rager Review. Go Cajuns.